Hello, and welcome to Speak What You Seek Radio. I'm Jasmine Harris, an educator, graduate student, writer, and creator of Speak What You Seek. Each episode, a diverse, inspirational woman is interviewed. We discuss ways in which the dimensions of health, physical, spiritual, intellectual, social, emotional, and financial affect our identity. With an open mind and an open heart, we hope to inspire and educate women and people everywhere. Thanks for tuning in. In this episode, I interview Adrienne Antonio. We discuss ways in which our identity is shaped. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Antonio. I am currently a regional recruitment manager for City Year, Inc., and I currently live in Los Angeles and have been living here for the past 3 years. But before then, I was traveling up and down and back and forth around the U.S., and so this has just been a great couple of years where I have been working with City Year for the past 7 years now, and I have definitely just been excited to work within education because we're an education nonprofit, and being a graduate of the University of California, Santa Barbara as a sociology major, I have been able to utilize a lot of the skills professionally and personally that I have developed and learned while I was in school into the last 7 years of my personal and professional life. So with that, as a professional, I like to do a lot of work-life balance. So I tend to hang out with my family and friends because they're very supportive and they give me a lot of love and joy. And I enjoy listening to music festivals and concerts, and trying to be able to travel and make connections with tons of people around the world, and just trying to get a better understanding of what is going on this beautiful world of ours, and just trying to stay connected and learn as much as I can.
Well, I'm glad you said that, stay connected. And there's so many great points that you brought out, but I want to talk about City Year for just a little bit because that is how I got the opportunity to meet you. What has made you stick with City Year for so long?
Yeah, great question. I ask myself that almost every year. But it honestly has to be the service that we provide, just working with kids, students in schools that really just need the mentorship and guidance from young individuals who bring that positivity and that just aspiration to be someone outside of the small world that they grow up in. And I think with City Year, it's just having those role models and learning from each other through building relationships and getting a better understanding of how important education is, not only while you're in school, but just after that and into your whole adult life. And so with City Year, it's definitely, again, the service that we provide with the students, but also the people that they bring in. So the young adults and young individuals who grow professionally as leaders, they're just so positive, and they bring this excitement of bringing social justice into the world and having that mindset that we could all come together as one towards a specific goal, like education, but also just bringing the world together and making sure that things are being addressed and things that are really needing to be worked on to make everyone better and just to build a better world for us to live in and enjoy living in.
It's interesting you said that one of the things that City Year does is open the eyes of the students and the people that they work with to a world that's, broader than their own environment. And I know with my City Year experience, I'm so thankful that I was able just to meet so many people from, so many diverse backgrounds that had so many great things to add, to the world of education, just to the world in general. I mean, how amazing is that for you just to work with so many people every day? Because, you're still doing this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As a recruiter, bringing in these 17 to 25-year-olds to give a year of service to students that they don't even really know and they don't really know about, but they're willing to put themselves out there. So that really truly inspires me day in and day out when I talk to these kids who just want to take a year off after going to school or during school and even high school to just, give back and really show that students have the support and that they could do whatever they wanted to do.
Mhm. That is so true, and so important just for students and for everyone to feel like you can do whatever you want to do. And what made you feel like you could do whatever you want to do?
Honestly, I think it had to do with my family and friends, but truly my
Mhm.
family. My parents have really instilled hard work and just being a very strong person in this world. And I think with that, education was always something that they really instilled in me. And so they wanted me to go to school every day. They wanted me to be involved and get straight A's. And, you know, they were really strict about it. But at the same time, I'm very fortunate that they were, because I had classmates who, you know, barely came to school or just didn't even try during class and didn't even turn in their homework. And so it really was a pain to just, like, have my parents just, you know, do your homework, girl. She can't, like, play with your friends. And so at that time when I was in elementary school, I just, like, really despised it. I was just like, oh, I don't get it. I don't want to go to school.
I completely understand. Like, why do they do this?
Yeah, it's like I hate math. I hate reading. But, yeah, I think, like, the fact that I also had 3 older siblings that I really looked up to, and they enjoyed school and they made learning fun. So I think just having that kind of support was just something that really stuck with me, and I really give it up to my parents. I love being the youngest, and I get the opportunities to, like, learn from their mistakes and just learn a lot from them. So, yeah, I think that's truly where I got it from.
That is a really interesting experience. You said being the youngest, too, because you get to watch everybody kind of mess up. And you're like, you know what, I'm not going to do that. How do you maintain those relationships in your family? Because we get older and we get caught up in our work, and how do you keep up with everybody?
Oh, gosh, really good question. I'm still working on it. I think, like, after college, I moved across the country 3 times every 3 years, and I think I slowly realized, like, how much I value my family and how much I miss them so much. So I got, like, homesick a lot, but I pulled through it, and I knew that regardless of not being able to check in with them as much as I can or even see or visit them physically, that they were always going to be there for me, that they were only a phone call away if, like, I was needing, you know, how to cook some Filipino dish that I was missing, or like my mom's a nurse, so, like, I just had to figure out, like, when I was sick, like, oh, I could just call my mom and tell her what's going on, and she'll make me feel better. So I just try to keep them in mind as much as possible, and, like, especially with technology now, I'm able to, like, FaceTime and text and call and, you know, go on social media, kind of like the way that I'm able to now connect with my family. But as I'm getting older, I see how to keep the relationships going. So I'm very close to my family right now. Like, I am only a 2.5-hour drive away, and it's really nice to just, like, on the weekend, just, you know, do a round trip and get to see my family, which I did this weekend. So it's really great because I also have nieces and nephews, and they're just growing up so quickly. And so I just want to be a part of their life and be a role model to them. So I really try my best to just make time, even if it's just, like, a couple of hours, just to, like, sit down and see what's going on in their lives, because I had that when I was growing up. So I want to be that person for them and can kind of instill those same values that my family did and just keep the ripple going, because I think it's really important. So just trying to remind myself that these relationships, my family, are more important than other things that are going on in my life.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm glad you said that, just to keep the ripple going, because you said that you always had your mom or just someone there just always instruct you, just to guide you in each and every way. And I feel like I had those same experiences. So my mom was always there, you know, telling me, hey, you should do this or you should do that. And if my mom wasn't there, I had my dad or my older siblings. So it's like family can just play such a great key, you know, making who you are.
Absolutely.
And you also mentioned that you said that you try to make time for your family. You said that you do FaceTime, Facebook, social media, calls, and visits. Have you always done that, or were you always this close to your family?
I honestly probably wasn't. I thought I was, but I think, like, I was just in my young 20s and just, like, wanting to live my own life and, you know, make my own mistakes. So that's why I traveled and, like, moved around so much, because I needed to figure out who I was without my parents, like, telling me what to do, or, like, having my older siblings, you know, try to influence me in a certain way. So I think maybe 2-3 years ago, or even 4 years ago, I was just not willing to make an effort to really stay as connected with my family as I do now. And I've met so many people in the past 5 years who don't have the opportunity to connect or have a family to continue building a relationship with. So to have my family and have them be near to me as much as possible. And so, again, like, this is the closest I've ever lived to my family, and, like, I'm very, very happy to, like, have that. And also, like, my sister lives, like, 10 minutes away from me here in LA as well, and, like, we try to make an effort to see each other at least once a week, like, over dinner or lunch. And I'm actually going to see her tonight because she asked me to help her choreograph a couple of dance routines, still dance. But, yeah, like, I really just wanted to be my own person at first, but I think, like, now that I get to have a better understanding of who I am, I just really bring it back to my family because they are the ones who really helped shape who I am from the beginning.
Right, that's really well said. And just to go into just the next area, you mentioned earlier that your mom would help you with recipes. And so what is your ethnicity?
So I'm Filipino. So both of my parents grew up in the Philippines, and then my dad was actually 16 when he moved to California and worked in the grape fields with his dad, who had come to California earlier. And my mom, she didn't come to the United States until she was, like, in her young early 20s as a registered nurse and worked in Detroit, Michigan. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
crazy.
Awesome.
I think I really get, like, my traveling from my parents, American, but definitely Filipino first, because, again, my family is pretty traditional as far as, like, food and other Filipino traditions during the holidays. And even now, actually this coming weekend back at home in Delano, we have an annual Philippine Weekend Festival, and so thousands of Filipinos come to our small town to just celebrate the culture of Filipinos. And so there's a lot of festivals that happen throughout the year, but, like, this is definitely one of the biggest ones that bring in just so many different cultures, not only just Filipinos, but whomever wants to share the love that we have about, like, our heritage. So I'm very proud to be a Filipino and kind of still carry on those traditions and be very aware of where I come from and try to tell other people who aren't aware of what Filipinos or who Filipinos are and how great of a culture. And
what are some of the traditions of Filipinos? Because I feel like just in my area, because I'm in Arkansas right now, we don't have a large Filipino population, so probably a lot of people that I know may not know a lot about it.
Yeah, good question. Which I'm really happy to answer. And people understand Filipinos as being from the islands of the Philippines, and there are definitely many dialects that come from there, but also I think the tradition of food. We have really good food in the Philippines, and I think it's food that brings a lot of people together and just being able to break bread. So whenever you go into a Filipino house, the first thing that a mom or an auntie or a grandma will ask is if you've eaten. And we will have a whole table, pretty much like buffet style, plus more, filled with just great, like, Filipino food. And we just want to make sure that people are being fed and being healthy and being cared for. So I think we are just very open-hearted and very open-minded and very welcoming to everyone and anyone through food. We love getting to connect with other people and just, like, really ask great questions and learn about other people. So, yeah, I think we're very friendly. We're very optimistic and very hardworking people who love being in, like, big crowds and being loud and celebrating a lot of different things.
That's really awesome. And it's funny that you said just the food thing, because it just makes me think of just moms, because I can just see a mom like, are you sure you're not hungry? I have some food here. Like, just eat something to know, so I can know that you're okay.
Absolutely, yep.
Yes, I can understand that. What are some signature dishes?
Yeah, so my favorites are adobo, which you could cook with either chicken or pork, and it's just marinated in this soy sauce with, like, bay leaves and garlic and onions and ginger, and it's like this salty stew that we have. And then another thing is pancit, which is our noodle dish, which has, like, vegetables and You could put any like chicken or shrimp or whatever other protein you want. And then another thing is lumpia, which is our, I guess, Filipino version of egg rolls. So you could put different vegetables and then roll it up in a wrapper and then fry it. And those are my three favorites. But we have a ton. Like, we're really big on vegetables and stews and pork. I think those are probably like the main thing. And fish. Yes, a lot of fish and seafood.
Do you eat a lot of Filipino food throughout the week?
Well, one of the things that I wish I had more time to do is cook. So when I do cook, I usually do a lot of stir fries. It's just so much easier to just cut up stuff and just put it all together. I love pasta and bread, even though it's just like not the healthiest choice, but sometimes it's just like the easiest dish, but like you could put whatever in it and it just like tastes amazing. Another thing would have to be, I'm trying to think. I haven't cooked in a while, obviously. I love rice. Filipinos are huge on rice as well. I could probably eat like bowls of rice all day, every day. And then I try to be healthy and eat some like salads and sushi and just like fresh food. That's the one thing about LA is that LA or California in general just has like a lot of good produce, and I try to take advantage of it as much as possible and go to like farmers markets and eat as much fruit because the fruit here is really good as well. So I try to mix it up a little bit.
And going back just to ethnicity, do you feel that you've experienced any type of minority experience?
Yeah, I have. And I think being just an Asian woman, especially in the nonprofit sector, which I have been, like which City Year is in, there's not a lot of representation of Asian women because typically, especially like when I was going to school, my parents were like, oh, you should be a doctor or a nurse, be in the medical field, or be an accountant, be in the finance, or just, be a lawyer or anything that like made a lot of money. And so I think the fact that I went the route that I did, my parents kind of just didn't understand because it was just like really wasn't the typical route to go. But I love what I do and I love the people that I work with. And I really wish there was a bigger representation of Asian or Filipinos. But within the past couple of years as a recruiter, I've really tried to be very mindful and, express to those young Asian girls and young Asian women that like, this is a great, successful route as well. And if you love working with youth and education and, being in the public service sector, like this is not something that should be passed on. And so within City Year, I feel like I've been a minority, but that kind of made me motivate myself to be that role model and be that voice for others, like myself. And then also because I've been able to travel and live in different places, specifically Jacksonville, Florida, where I met you, Jasmine, and worked with you. That was like maybe my first experience really being in the South and having not a lot of Asians in that community and having a lot of African Americans and Hispanics. And I, felt a little out of place, not to say it was a bad thing, but I really was able to open my eyes to like different cultures and have the opportunity to tell others who aren't really familiar with Filipinos or Asians about my lifestyle as well. So there's a couple times where I feel very much so the minority.
Right. And just speaking from just the Jacksonville experience and any experience as a minority, have you ever experienced culture shock? Because a lot of people, moving around and being around just different, demographics experience culture shock, and I have myself.
My first culture shock would have to be, I've had many. I think my first visit to New York when I was in high school, I was actually going there for an internship for a couple of weeks. And I think just being from a small town with like about 50,000 people and moving to New York with so like much of a difference of like fast paced and like different cultures and very diverse and like a lot going on, I was just like, oh my God, this is definitely something that I'm not used to. So I think living in a different city across the country, 3,000 miles away from my family, like that was a huge culture shock, which I'm very appreciative because not like for that to happen during my summer between my junior and senior year of high school, like that really opened up my eyes to just like a bigger world outside of where I'm from. And then I think the second time would have to be when I moved to college at UC Santa Barbara. Delano is full of Hispanics and Filipinos, and it's pretty diverse. But I think when I went to Santa Barbara, it was primarily Caucasians. And again, they live, quite differently from from where I'm from as well. Like, they're very beachy and very much into, like, I don't want to, like, stereotype them, but, like, it really, like, they love being out on the beach and kind of having different type of, like, social life and social standards. So I think, like, I really had to learn a little bit more of, like, how they lived and, like, what it was that they were interested in. And not that I was, like, trying to conform, but it was just, like, really something that I had never been exposed to. And I think with that, like, that was just, like, a huge culture shock that, like, I wasn't as exposed or know as much as I did know. So I think that. And then lastly, I think the biggest culture shock for me was going to City Year. And City Year, as you know, Jasmine, has a huge culture.
Right.
and like, having
culture.
and, like, having to wear a uniform every day and having to do a couple of culture pieces that is very intense at sometimes. Before you ask me this question, I probably wouldn't say, like, I was really culture shocked or consider it a culture shock, but I think it really is. Like, it's kind of the epitome of culture shock for a lot of people who might not have that experience.
Yeah, I can definitely say the hugging was a culture shock for me, and probably still. I feel like a lot more positive, a lot more optimistic through the years, but I still can't do the hugging. I don't know. Wish I could have learned that through my experience. Okay, another question that I had, though, when you were talking about just your career and being a minority within the nonprofit sector, was it hard for you to explain to your parents or your family just that you were going to go a different route than what they wanted you to do?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, like, the turn of event was, like, when I switched my major in college, and I went in as business econ thinking I was going to be an accountant. But as soon as I started taking those classes, I was like, this is not for me at all. It was just, like, too dry for me. It was very just, like, black and white. And knowing myself, I was just like, you know, I'm a very people person. I like to be out in the open and in the field, not, like, in a cubicle or in a very small contained space. And so once I started taking my sociology classes and psychology classes, I was just like, this is awesome. Like, these are the things that actually make me excited to learn and, you know, read and go to class and just be immersed in. And so as soon as I told my mom that I changed my major, she's just like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been paying all this money for you to just, like, be a sociologist, whatever that is. And so she really didn't get it. And I had to kind of break it down and pretty much say, like, this is the same, almost similar to what you're doing as a nurse. Like, you're giving back, you're giving your personal heart and soul into the people that you're working with. And so I even also extended it to how my dad was working. Like, he works with his hands in the field, and he's always, you know, networking and connecting with people as in the agriculture. So once I kind of broke it down to that and how the way that they shaped me with education, the two and two kind of just, like, clicked for them. And then once I told them that I was not going to work full-time or find a full-time job with a high-paying salary after graduation, and instead I'm going to City Year and volunteer for a small stipend across the country, they were like, no, you're not going to do it. Like, there was, like, no discussion at all. It was just like, nope, you're not going to do it. Like, why?
When I can't even imagine, because my dad was just like, are you okay? Like, are you going through something?
Yeah. And here I was thinking, like, this is amazing. Like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then when I broke the news to my parents, they were just like, no. I was just like, oh, my God. Like, what? Like, my parents are totally going to disown me now. So thankfully, my oldest sister, who is also in healthcare, she was just, you know, telling my parents, like, this is a good experience for her. Like, you should definitely let her go out and, like, be able to work and become someone that she might really love and do something that she might do long term. And so I really think my older sister pretty much made it possible for me to go out to New York and do City Year. So it wasn't probably until, like, the third year that I finished City Year that my parents were like, oh, so you work in schools and you're a tutor and you're a mentor. I thought you were just, like, volunteering for an after-school program and, like, getting $0. So, yeah, and, like, even now, as a recruiter, for almost 4 years with City Year. It wasn't probably until like last year where my mom was like, oh, so you don't work in schools anymore? And so it's just hard, a little bit harder for them to grasp, but I think like they're very appreciative and they see how much I love what I'm doing. And it just took them, 5 years to fully get around to it, but like they love it. They're like, oh, what city are you going to move to next so we could come visit you? And I'm like, all right.
That's really exciting now. So my last question is, well, not my last, but probably my last series of questions. So I like questions. Identity. Your identity, and what does identity mean to you?
This is honestly one of the things that I was up all night thinking about it. I think it's so hard to say in such a short amount of words or to even articulate it the way that I would really wish I could. And I think identity is just something that is your own, and then there's no right or wrong answer of who exactly that person is and who you can be. And I think my identity is always changing, but I for sure can say that I have built my identity through my family, my parents specifically, and also my 4 siblings, but also the people who I have been able to meet throughout my 28 years. And I think definitely extend my family to my friends who have just always been there. Like, for instance, I have 2 best friends that I met in college our freshman year, and we've been friends for 10 years now. Crazy to think about. And they actually live here in LA as well. So we have been staying connected, and they even came to visit me in New York, and they tried to visit me in Jacksonville, but they've always been there through thick and thin. And that has been the greatest thing of like my adult life, is just like having those strong women who I know will always be there because they see what type of relationship that we have and what kind of people we have become through our relationships. And then on top of that, I have friends who I've known since elementary, middle school, high school, who I'm still all close with, and we go out and travel together. I have another group of strong women, best friends, who we've, traveled together. We have an annual Memorial Day trip and to different locations, and we have a book club where we're always trying to just like learn more and be a little bit more cultured. So I am definitely identifying by people that I hold close to my heart, and I think that is the biggest part of my identity, alongside with like my professional career as a recruiter. Again, I'm meeting so many other people who I get to learn from and instill different types of values and interests in. And then, of course, being Filipino, but that goes with my family, that I have such a strong culture, and I'm still so tied to it through my family and through my friends. Yeah, I think with more and more experiences that I'm fortunate to have and also assert myself into, it builds my identity into a more diverse person who is becoming more empathetic, and I continue to be as positive as possible and continue to be a listener, and also just be considerate and thoughtful, and really just try to become a very supportive person for everyone, and hopefully find other ways to grow within my next couple of years. So.
Gosh, you make me want to ask so many more questions, but I'm going to limit myself. But you mentioned that you were ever changing, ever evolving, and this is so important. Like, how did you find, I guess, the space, or just how did you figure out that, you know what, I'm going to always evolve, I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm just going to keep growing, and I feel like that's the perfect thing about it. Like, how did you come to that?
I really do think it's the people that I have so graciously run into, and like including yourself, Jasmine, like the teams that I've worked through City Year. There wasn't, all of us having that same type of goal and applying for City Year, which we should all be so fortunate, because I think it's a privilege to serve. Those are the types of people that I definitely want to continue to surround myself, because they are all very thoughtful and they are always wanting to change and grow. And I think like that type of mentality has really been instilled in me. And I love it. Everyone should be able to want to grow and evolve as much as possible, and not stay so stagnant and content with who they are, because that's boring. I honestly want to say why would you want to do that when you have so much potential, so many experiences that not everyone could have. And so I always tell people. And if you don't like it, you could always go back. You could always move somewhere else. You could always say that that's not your preference, but you don't know, and you can't complain and be negative until you've actually done something about it. So,
that's so true. Like, we hold the power. It makes me think of this picture that I saw on Instagram and it said, "You are not a tree. You can move if you don't like it."
That's so good. Yes, I love that. Yeah, and I think also, like, another thing is after college, I just had my passion for reading kind of, like, come about, and so I'm always trying to read as much as possible and grow intellectually with a lot of topics and issues that are happening, and I just, like, want to be able to speak and articulate what immerse yourself in different conversations and dialogues that may be, like, uncomfortable or just, like, something that you don't know. Like, that's powerful. Like, you could just become a different person if you just allow yourself to.
That's so true. And this is my last question. What is a good book that you would recommend for those who want to continue to grow and just become better within themselves?
There's so many. But I want to say what really caught my reading was The Optimist. And I should shoot myself in the foot because I never know how to pronounce the author's name. But, yeah, The Alchemist, I was given that book from someone in City Year who has a good heart, and he is always trying to better people that he meets. And so he gave that book to the startup team in Sacramento. And it's just a book about just finding your true calling, and you know, you're going to go through so many ups and downs and a lot of, like, curveballs, and you're going to meet different people within that journey who may sway you in a different way or who may tell you something wrong, but, like, you have to go with your gut feeling and also your heart and also consider what's going on in your head to just find out who you are. Like what I said before, just, like, become a person, that person that you think you could be. And
thanks for listening. On the next episode, I'll be interviewing a young woman discussing the dimensions of health. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening to Speak What You Seek Radio, and be positive. Don't run, just stay wild.
Before Vietnam, when boards were long and hair was short, the center of the surfing world was a place called Malibu.